You're listening to The Signal Daily. Hi, I'm Shorbari, your host for The Signal Daily podcast, and this is the episode for 2nd May 2024. Today we talk about the split in the Godrej family business and who is getting what. And in our second segment, we look at the rising popularity of ramen noodles in India. Is it a phenomenon that is here to stay? To talk about this, we'll be joined by Anjali Palod, staff writer at The Core. A family business empire that is older than India's independence is splitting up. We are talking about Godrej. You know those brand names that become synonymous with the commodities that they sell? I think Godrej had that effect on steel almirahs in India. You surely know what I'm talking about, right? All our grandparents had a quote-unquote Godrej almirah in their house. While the family business started way back in the 19th century with soaps, locks, and furniture, the conglomerate that was founded by Ardeshir Godrej now operates in the real estate sector as one of India's major players. It has also expanded into the FMCG sector, industrial engineering, aerospace, home appliances, security solutions, and the agricultural space, among others, making the Godrejes one of India's richest business families. And a fun fact, Godrej actually introduced the world to the first vegetable oil soaps and also springless locks. So it's not just an OG made-in-India brand, but a pioneer as well. Now, while Ardeshir Godrej had no offspring, his brother Piroj Shah's grandchildren, or basically the third generation of the family, Adi, Nadir and Jamshed Godrej, have decided to amicably divide assets and split up the business. But the split in the 127-year-old business conglomerate is not entirely unexpected. For the past few years, some rumors have been doing the rounds of a potential rift within two factions of the family, although that never really got confirmed. But according to a press statement, the split was done in a quote-unquote respectful and mindful way in acknowledgement of the differing visions of the Godrej family members, end quote. So how it's going to work now is that one half will go to the families of Jamshed Godrej and Smrita Krishna, who are siblings. Godrej Enterprises Group, comprising of Godrej and Boyce Manufacturing Company, Godrej Holdings Private Limited, Godrej Infotech Limited and its subsidiaries and joint ventures, will have a presence in several industries from aerospace to defense, clean energy, railways, automotive and IT services. The other half of the business will be controlled by the siblings, Adi and Nadir Godrej and their children. This is the Godrej Industries Group, which includes the listed companies Godrej Industries, Godrej Consumer Products, Godrej Properties, Godrej Agrovet, among others, along with their respective subsidiaries and joint ventures. Now, as far as business splits go, this is fairly drama-free and mature as of now. Nothing like what the Kalyani family is going through, or for that matter, the Ambani's dispute. Now, to initiate the breakup process, the two sides quit the boards of companies in the other branch, but going forward, these branches will continue to use the Godrej brand. And the two sides of the family have also agreed to a 6-year non-compete agreement. But what will be the impact of the split? Well, that depends. This split could alter the landscape within the industries in which Godrej operates as the separated entities reposition themselves. And depending on how the split works out, there could be some implications for the brand as well. Or, this could also work out well from a strategy perspective. But surely, this will mark a new era. For our second segment, we are going to bring you deep dives on stories from the world of technology, business, policy, and anything that leaves you with food for thought. You know the feeling when you come home after work, completely zapped out of your brains, craving for a hot meal but feel too exhausted to even lift a finger? On such nights, I have often fallen back on instant noodles for instant comfort. For Indians, Maggi used to be that go-to favorite. But lately, ramen is the new kid in the block, although it costs a bit more than the traditional noodle variety. I don't know if it's the Hallyu wave or the K-culture fan in me, but boy, do I love slurping instant ramen noodles. In fact, according to The Guardian, last year, the world consumed 121.2 billion servings of instant noodles, with India ranking third. It's pretty much become a staple food, no? The report even suggests that the hunger for ramen noodles among the middle class is being driven by the high cost of living. But anyway, coming back to the Indian market, Initially, the most favored ramen noodles would come from certain South Korean brands like Nongshim and Samyang, both of which offered a range of ramen, but then again, these were not available in regular Kirana stores. They were mostly sold on e-commerce platforms and had more takers in metro cities. So their availability was sort of limited. But Indian FMCG companies are moving fast to cash in on the ramen demand. For instance, Nestle India broadened its Maggi line last year, introducing Maggi Korean noodles in two savory options, barbecue chicken and barbecue veg. That comes for rupees 60 and rupees 55 respectively. Hindustan Unilever, or HUL, followed suit by expanding its Knorr range with the introduction of a Korean meal pot in two flavors that come for rupees 300. And Indonesin Foods, which is the Indian subsidiary of Japanese noodle maker Nissin Group, has been making instant noodles in India for the past 36 years. Now, while cup noodles and top ramen have been their most popular products, 3 years ago it launched Geki, which is their version of Korean instant noodles. But the growth trajectories of the traditional masala noodles in India and Korean ramen are completely different. I asked Anjali Palod, staff writer for The Core, who's written on India's ramen market, to join us in this podcast and tell us why FMCG companies are not heavily relying on Korean flavors for growth.
The explosion of Korean food is pretty evident in India's culinary landscape, and instant noodles is a big part of this wave, especially since it's one of the most accessible ways for people to try Korean food. Now, this space till a couple of years ago was ruled by imported brands from South Korea like Nongshim and Samyang. Today, you will spot Korean flavors in your usual noodle aisles also in supermarkets. In my conversation with Managing Director of Indonesin, Sandeep Bakshi, I found that this also has to do with how masala noodles as a category has been performing. While the pandemic was a major boost because people were hardly moving out and eating a lot at home, brands like Maggi, Yippee, and Indonesin's masala cup noodles were doing quite well. But of late, this growth has been slower. So even these brands are looking for newer pockets of growth. Also, if you're a smaller brand looking to get into the instant noodles market, masala noodles is very tough to crack into. Maggi has been pretty much unshakable in this market. So Korean is a good entry point, which newer brands like Master Chow are looking at as a low competition market. At the same time, the demand is there. It used to be concentrated in metro cities, but it's spreading across the country now. The imported noodles retail for much higher than what Indians are used to paying for a packet of instant noodles. We've been paying between 15 to 20 rupees for masala noodles. So this 100 to 150 price tag that comes with imported Korean noodles is pretty high, especially since many consumers are still experimenting. So there's definitely a market for the 30 to 50 rupee Korean noodles here. How brands are looking at this trend is pretty much that, a trend. It started off with Korean elements in pop culture like TV shows and music, which has now spread into food, cosmetics and others. As Sandeep Bakshi pointed out, a majority of scenes in Korean dramas happen on their dining tables, where people are eating noodles quite often. So this is what got people interested in the cuisine in the first place. So for the younger generation, there is room to establish Korean noodles as a staple, like how we have grown up on Maggi. Having said that, the way this Korean wave has come to India, or rather hit India, it is not the same as how Chinese cuisine, for example, made its place. That was more gradual and it got Indianized to a great extent before it became as omnipresent as it is today. Whether Korean can go down the same path is currently questionable. Brands are looking at this as a star product for today, but there's not much interest in establishing a purely Korean brand. But in the longer term, it is expected to at least be overshadowed, if not replaced, by some other cuisine or trend.
If you haven't read Anjali's story yet, you can check it out on the show notes. But do let us know what you think in the comments. Is the ramen wave here to stay? If you like listening to The Signal Daily, please show some support. Rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'd love to hear what you have to say about this podcast. So feel free to shoot an email at hello@thesignal.co. This episode was researched and written by me, Shorbari, produced by Manaswini. edited by Venkat Ananth, mastered and mixed by Yash Hirve. You can catch this podcast every morning on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Prime Music, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are thesignal.co on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.